So I'm going to real quick go over blood breathing, which is inducing actual life choice into the bloodstream. And so the blood is like a, think of it as the foundation upon which all of every cell in your body is drawing energy, and that energy is drawn up into metabolic processes, into the nerve action, into the actions of the brain and the digestive system. And so you could have the blood, and then the body is drawing this oxygen, this energy up out of the blood into the shape of the body and into the shape of the higher order processes of the body, including thought and everything else. So all your thoughts, your perception, your breathing, your metabolism, all of that is energy coming up out of the blood and going into that stuff. And then also that stuff is generating waste or whatever. It has its own energy, and then that comes out, and then that goes back down into the blood. We'll label that CO2, and the energy coming up out of the blood is oxygen. But really, we're just looking at energy. We're looking at electrons. What are electrons? Electrons are a word or a placeholder for the energy. Oxygen is a word or a placeholder for the electrons. So I'll link in a quick little training session. So it's going to be, I'll use the SpO2 monitor. You don't need one of these to figure this out, but it really helps to see what you're doing and what it feels like. And so you just breathe. You just want to induce waves in the blood. So normally the blood is like fully saturated, and you want to induce an oxygen. You want to induce an energy wave in it somehow, and that looks like a desaturation event. So this is breathing into the blood. It's kind of like falling into the blood, oxygen, and then breathing around 90% up and down. So when you have a desaturation event, the blood comes down, and then until you resaturate it. you can that's healthy, like, right, it kind of it introduces a wave into the very foundation of the tree of life that you call your body. So when it induces that wave into the energy pattern, it causes a wave to spread into the whole system. It's like a type of light. It's a disturbance in matter, a disturbance in ether at the very foundation of your being. And so when you do this blood training, it's a type of light that is at the frequency of the whole vascular system pulsing. And this is extremely vitalizing. It's an extremely vitalizing form of energy, and that's why people, when you do intense exercise or intense cardio, your muscles are using up all the oxygen in the blood, and so that causes a desaturation wave to move through that branch of the circulatory system. If you do systemic exercise to where everything is going, every branch of the circulatory system is using up a ton of oxygen, and you get very strong systemic health benefits from causing the blood to saturate and desaturate. You do have to hit every system or you'll get an imbalance in the different branches of the circulatory system. So doing it at the point of breath is beneficial just in that it hits the whole thing all at once. And this does cause adaptations and mental centering in the body that's similar to adapting to intense cardio. And so you can see on the SpO2 video, like I'm not breathing. I'm breathing, but like breathing right now, I'm at 99%, right? So when I drop down to 85 and keep between 85 and 93, my blood is suddenly supporting this wave. In the sum total, view all of the breath, all the electrons, all the oxygen, everything as a giant C, right? And the amount of oxygen in that C is the sea level, or the amount of energy in the blood is the sea level of that electron field, the electric field of the blood. And so when you're breathing at 85 to 93%, it's doing this. And so it can go up and down. And if you establish a new baseline at like 90, the blood is essentially held taut. It kind of wants to come up and fall down, but you're holding it taut right there at 90. And so that's like pulling a string taut. And then once it's there, that can start vibrating. And that vibration, it's a tune. That pulling the blood under tension makes it like basically electromagnetically receptive, like an instrument or like a guitar string. It's capable of holding waves at that new surface that you've made. If the blood is fully topped off, it's like it's like water in a pipe that's totally full. There's no waves that can travel. It's just totally full. There's no surface. Or if you only drop it down to like 95, the waves that travel hit the top, and so it screws up the waves. They crash, they break. But if you desaturate it enough that there's room to go up and down, the center point around which it's going up and down is a new surface. And so if you can get that everywhere in the body, it causes the entirety of the blood to become an antenna. And you only have to drop the surface down a little bit. 90% is plenty, whatever, just enough to get in it. Just like how much water do you need to get into to float? It's not very much. Like, can you do more? Are you able to do more stuff if you could drop your baseline down to 75% or whatever? If you could have the blood oscillating upon that oscillation is analogous to water depth. And so you can imagine that people doing that are capable of more interesting feats of athleticism or mental performance. I have a hunch that balance and proprioceptive stuff, so when people are doing gymnastics or other things, I have a feeling that there's a certain part of the mind that's hyperactive, the same way that there's a certain part of the body that's hyperactive during pull-ups, and it has a tremendous oxygen draw, like somebody's like pull-up muscles. If they're good at pull-ups, tremendous oxygen draw, and they've adapted to be able to tolerate that amount of energy draw. There's probably branches of the circulatory system that are in the brain and the inner ear that have to grab the body just as strongly to do cartwheels and acrobatics, and it has to be very strong and have like a tremendous amount of energy draw. So just like somebody that at a high end of this, you could have like an Olympic sprinter just going all out to the point of vomiting. That's a tolerance for like grabbing and doing something with the body. And so every type of like high level sport is going to have that happening somewhere in the nervous system, even if it's intense focus. If it's an intense focus, there's probably one area of the brain that's just like using up a ridiculous amount of oxygen. And I guess this ties into it of like people find intense activities like that. It makes them healthy. And I'm going to say that a large aspect of what makes an activity healthy is this thing where the blood is pulled taut, or where the blood is put under electromagnetic tension, and it polarizes towards being very attracted to oxygen, or being very attracted to energy. Like the blood that is discharged of energy has a strong magnetic attraction, a strong pull towards having it filled. Normally with oxygen, but maybe it's attracted to other things. Like carbon monoxide or whatever can get into the blood. So the blood is not just attracted to oxygen, it's attracted to energy of that frequency in general. And so if it's desaturated, the surface is put taut like a guitar string, and it's attracted to or responsive to this particular type of electromagnetic energy, and so it can be moved. So the blood becomes an antenna. That's flow state, that's blind sight. If you're doing your little ninja test and you have to block the person coming at you from behind, or blindfolded, or being able to respond like fluidly, gracefully on a basketball court. This is the blood tension is where the mind becomes responsive enough for physical activity. And people that ignore this or what have you, that's the not very clumsy. They're controlling their mind from the perception rather than controlling the body from the blood. The blood control is one step faster than the mind control. Ironically, you could probably break mind control if you got blood control of the body. Like, let's say that you were under some sort of mind control and you can't figure it out because your mind's being controlled. So how are you going to use your mind to get out of the mind control? Then people find great success in getting control of themselves via the blood or via the heart.